There we go. All right, let's do it again.
All righty, is it now 6:03? I'd like to call this meeting to order.
Okay.
Could I have a roll call, please?
Of course. Chair Tagavis, missing. Vice Chair McCauley.
Here.
Committee Member Bowen.
Here.
Committee Member Chang.
Here.
Committee Member Gore.
Present.
And Committee Member Guzman.
Here.
All right.
Okay, and then I guess the agenda review.
Anybody, any BPAC members had any questions, comments, or changes to the agenda tonight? If not, we can move forward.
All righty. Then any oral communications?
As of this afternoon, or as of 5 p.m., we have not received any emails or phone calls or voicemails with respect to tonight's BPAC agenda.
And no visitors from the public at the meeting?
I don't believe so. I think we have our applicant team for the agenda item. We have our staff members here, and yeah, no members from the public.
Gotcha. Okay, then I'll go ahead and ask for approval of the minutes of the August 4th meeting.
All right. Any
I move that
members?
we approve the minutes from the August 4th BPAC meeting.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 But that sounded like a majority.
Yeah.
Minutes are approved. Okay, so I think we're on for administrative business.
All right, so we have a project update for the project at 124 Airport Boulevard and 100 Produce Avenue. And before we hand off to our applicant team, BPAC members, I wanted to just review what we've looked at before. So BPAC did review this in August of 2020. So it's actually been a year since we've seen this. Again, the project here is located at 124 Airport and 100 Produce, which is bisected by San Mateo Avenue. So the project would construct 480 new residential units with 10% affordable. It does create an improved streetscape and pedestrian experience with new landscaping and amenities and other improvements along the frontages of the project along Airport, Produce, and San Mateo Avenues. The project is residential, and while it's not required to have a TDM plan, it does include TDM measures as part of the project, which includes provisions for bike parking, a bike repair hub, transit carpool resources, and unbundled parking. So the project timeline as of right now is this project is currently scheduled for a Planning Commission hearing in September, and then moving on to City Council for review and approval in October. So with that, I'd like to introduce Zach Anderson and Scott Udall from the project team.
Great. Good evening, BPAC. Good to see you all again. My name is Zach Anderson, and as Chris said, we have Scott Udall. We're both from the Hanover Company. We're the applicant for the project at 124 Airport and 100 Produce. I have a brief presentation to share with you guys that I'm happy to walk you through. So I will share my screen. Let me know if you can see this.
Yep.
Great. So I thought I would just start with a little bit of an overview, just to refresh everybody's memory on this project. So the project consists of two parcels, one on Airport Boulevard and one on Produce Avenue. The two parcels are bisected by San Mateo Avenue. This is just south of downtown and just west of Highway 101. Building 1 here on the left, plan left, which is on the north side of San Mateo Avenue, is we're proposing 294 residential units. And then building 2, what we call building 2 on the south side of San Mateo Avenue, we're proposing 186 residential units. I think it's also worth just mentioning that as part of the proposed project, we have 2 bike rooms, one for each building, one here on building 1, and then also on building 2 here, with direct access out to the sidewalk. We are proposing double the mandated number of bike parking spaces, long-term bike parking spaces. So 0.5 per unit, and then also 12 short-term bike parking spaces that you can see identified kind of around the site here with these little images here along the sidewalk. The 2 items that we're going to be talking about tonight, first one is the pedestrian tunnel that is just north of our site that runs under the Caltrain tracks, sort of off screen this direction. And then the second item is the intersection improvements that we're proposing, which consists of basically this portion of the intersection, the west side of the intersection, and primarily these 2 slip lanes you see going from San Mateo south onto Produce Avenue, and then Airport Boulevard west onto San Mateo Avenue. And then also these pork chop islands, which you can kind of see, they're a little blurry in this image that we'll get into in a little bit. So these are 6 images of the existing pedestrian tunnel that heads north towards downtown. This image up here in the upper left-hand corner, this is kind of in front of building 1. So on the north side of San Mateo, looking north towards the tracks that run over Airport Boulevard here. Getting a little bit closer to the tunnel, also looking north is this image here. The entry to the tunnel looking north is here. Once you're inside the tunnel, kind of looking back south is this image here. This is looking north again, sort of from the inside of the tunnel. And then this last image in the bottom right-hand corner, this is on the north side of the tunnel looking south. I mean, some of the things you'll immediately notice here, I'm not sure if any of you have been in this tunnel recently, but it's fairly dark, not particularly inviting. And given that it's not very well lit, it has the potential to be unsafe, I would think. So what we started with were 2 overarching goals when we started looking at the tunnel and ways that we could improve this. I know that when we met with you guys last year, we had some conceptual images of where we thought this could go. And since then, we put a lot of thought and time into trying to figure out how we could make this tunnel more inviting, warmer. So making it brighter to address the safety issue is kind of number 1, first and foremost in our minds. And then number 2, we wanted to make it warmer. We wanted to make it more inviting for bikers and pedestrians. So what we did is we started earlier this year with talking to Caltrain, or the Peninsula Joint Powers Board, which actually owns and is responsible for the ongoing maintenance of this tunnel because they own the tracks overhead. We had a number of good conversations with them. And from those conversations, we started to craft sort of a palette of what would work for them and work for us in terms of making this better experience. Just to give you an example of how our thought process has evolved during those conversations with Caltrain, one of our initial ideas was to potentially do a thin skim coat of concrete over the walls and the ceiling, just to smooth this out. and they came back to us and said that that would actually inhibit their ability to conduct ongoing maintenance and searching for cracks in the tunnel and ensuring the structural integrity of the tunnel. So that was an idea that we had to quickly kind of toss aside. And so what we did is we decided to focus our efforts on really paint and lighting. So consistent with some of the images that we showed you previously, what we did is we got with our lighting specialists and our landscape architecture team, and what we've come up with is a paint scheme that's fairly light in color, so it could reflect this new lighting scheme, which we're excited to show you guys tonight, which consists of kind of two different elements. One, you've got these white downlights, which are primarily there as safety lighting, which are oriented so that they illuminate the walls and then the ground. And then we've got this second set of lights that are in the corner here that are up lights that would illuminate both the ceiling and then this far wall. So as you can see, we have these existing openings that are between the pedestrian tunnel and then the vehicular traffic in the tunnel here. So we've kind of strategically decided to put the lights on this side closest to the vehicular traffic. So the colored lights, this rainbow pattern, will spill up and over onto the far wall, which we really do believe will be a much nicer experience for pedestrians and bikers going through the tunnel here. This is just another angle of what we're proposing. You can see, so in the foreground here, these are the existing openings between the vehicular traffic and the tunnel. So you've got the lights on this near side kind of shining up and over and down. Another cool element of this, because we have these openings, and I'll just go to one more image here just to show you. Because we have these openings, excuse me, these colored lights, this rainbow of sorts, will shine through the openings and create kind of a cool warm pattern inside the vehicular portion of the tunnel as well.
Are you aware of any installations like this that exist that we'd be able to see, like, one of these after a few years, what it looks like?
So our landscape architect actually, did some searching and came up with, several examples, most of which were not exactly like this. There was one that was similar, which we use as our basis for coming up with this scheme. So I actually don't have those handy tonight, or I don't have that one in particular, actually. But that's something we can get to you guys via Chris, I'm sure, if you'd like to see something.
Yeah, thank you. That would be really cool. I mean, because this looks cool, but I'm curious what it actually, in reality, what it looks like, because this looks really cool, but I feel like sometimes I've seen, like, after a few years, the way things wear, want to be sure it's a lasting thing.
Yeah. Well, so this, in working with our lighting consultant, this is, she put together, accurate photometrics. So this, it's not just a pretty picture. I mean, we believe this is fairly rooted in reality, in how these lights would perform and how they would kind of spill across the space. But I hear the comment about wanting to see how this kind of performs in the field and how it might age over time. Any other questions about the lighting scheme or the tunnel before I move on to the intersection upgrades?
Well, I like to ask the questions after I see the whole project, so
Sure.
I might come back to them.
Absolutely.
I did have one question about the tunnel, which is all those vents, I presume those probably, I haven't gone to that tunnel many times, probably because it is pretty uninviting. But I imagine during busy times, like it's probably pretty noisy due to those portholes or whatever. Is there any sort of like mitigation one can do, or is it necessary for airflow to be coming through those? Can you put like plexiglass or something over top the hole so that it's like a quiet tunnel that you could have a conversation in, as opposed to like shouting over traffic or something like that?
Offhand, I'm not sure what could be done in these openings. That would be a question that I would want to pose to Caltrain and the Joint Powers Board.
Totally.
To see if they have any thoughts on that. That's not a conversation we've had with them to date necessarily about what we could do with these openings, though.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you.
Vandalism is always a problem in that tunnel for the light fixtures. These new fixtures, are they fluorescent?
I believe they're LEDs.
LEDs.
Yeah.
Are they vandal resistant? I mean,
So it's a good question, and it's something we've thought about. Certainly, given the existing condition of the tunnel and some of the graffiti and whatnot that takes place in there. I know that we've identified a manufacturer, and so that's part of the conversation that we would have with them. Just explaining sort of the application here and wanting to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make them as tamper-proof as possible.
And one other general question about the tunnel. Can you give us the width of that tunnel, the floor surface?
I want to say it's maybe 8 feet, 8.5 feet. I don't remember offhand.
Zach, while you're presenting, I'll look up the dimensions because
Okay.
Zach was out there measuring at some point in the process.
I know that the height is about 8.5 feet. I don't remember. I want to say that the width is similar.
Well, since we're questioning, my only question or my comment is, it still, to me, appears a little dark and might be a little distracting. Just from, sometimes rainbow colors aren't as soothing as you would guess in walking through it. So my concern is it still might be a little dark. And I have walked through those tunnels and I don't do it anymore because I don't think it's a safe space.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we've talked about internally is increasing the number of the white downlights that could make it brighter. The sweet spot that we were going for and talking to our lighting consultant was making it bright enough with the white downlights, but not so bright that it washes out the colors and sort of negates the kind of cool effect that we think that the rainbow colors will have. So I agree that most likely there will be some fine tuning that we have to do in the field to kind of find that balance between the two. So this obviously is a concept drawing. It's accurate, but I think there will ultimately be some fine tuning that we'll have to do to find that balance.
Do you have concept drawings of the entry points? Because I'm kind of curious how you had a image of a biker walking his bike. So I'm kind of curious how the biker comes along, rides the bike outside, dismounts, and walks it through the tunnel and remounts on the other side.
So we only have these 3. So it's not necessarily called out, that this is the entry point. Let me just go back. Yeah,
Is
so
that bikeable right there on the outside? Is it meant to be bikeable or no?
this here?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I actually,
Okay.
when I've been out there and most recently when I was measuring it, there were actually 2 or 3 different bikers that came through and they slowed down and they went through, and there was actually a pedestrian coming from the other side, and they had they had room to pass one another. So I actually saw it firsthand. So I'll answer the question that way, that it seemed to work fine.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I think like the previous comment, sounds like given this photos too, I think the big concern is the graffiti, right? Like anything to reduce that in the future would be helpful.
And just to answer the previous question, the width of the tunnel on the ground is 94.5 inches. So that is just shy of
Just under 8 feet.
under 8 feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the person walking the bike is just the image. And, you know, I think whether people walk or ride would be no different than it is now, and probably a function of how much other traffic is in the tunnel at the time.
Great questions. So just moving on to the second item, and we can obviously come back to any additional questions that you guys have. And I know there was a comment of wanting to ask questions after seeing everything. So the intersection improvements that we wanted to discuss with you all today. So this is the existing intersection. You saw the first site plan that I showed kind of, illustrated it, but so we've got Airport Boulevard, which goes into produce. This is San Mateo, building 1, building 2. And so currently we have these 2 pork chop islands here that separate the existing curb from the street. And then we've got these slip lanes that are in between. And so one of the things that was identified by the city CEQA consultant during their traffic analysis was that this is a potentially dangerous configuration for pedestrians and bikers. So their recommendation was that we remove these pork chop islands in red. We push out the curb, bulb out the curb, so that there's a straight line intersection between the 2 sides of the street. And then basically just creating a shorter and sweeter intersection between these 2 buildings for bikers and pedestrians. Because this is such a busy intersection, what was important as we were coming up with an alternative to the existing condition is to make sure that the turning radii was not so pinched that the trucks and other vehicles coming down San Mateo Avenue or coming onto San Mateo Avenue aren't able to make that turn either onto produce or off of Airport Boulevard. So what we did is as you can see here, we removed the pork chop islands. We pushed out the curbs here and highlighted in blue, just for illustration purposes, would be this new crosswalk for bikers and pedestrians. What was important here, like I said, is maintaining the turning radii, so trucks and other vehicles can make the turn. We did not lose any vehicular lanes that may create a pinch point that doesn't exist today. So we were able to maintain the existing street alignment and still push out these curbs, tighten up this intersection, which we believe is a better solution than what is out there today.
The other side is bad also. Is the city going to match your improvements, or? Chris?
Sorry, I was on mute there. There is another project in the works for 40 Airport, which would address similar conditions on that slip lane on the other side. So yes.
Okay, great, because I've driven by there for many years and it's hard for pedestrians.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Chris.
So with that, we can open it up to further Q&A if you'd like.
So you have two buildings. How often will the residents from one building need to access the other building, or are they independent?
So the idea, let me just go back to the site plan. So the idea currently is that building 2 would start construction for, so actually, let me take a step back. To answer your question, the idea is that each of these buildings would operate independently.
Okay.
Amenities for each building would be, concentrated in each of the respective buildings for those residents. There would be an opportunity for residents of building 2 to use the amenities of building 1, which are a little bit more robust. But the way that we've programmed them is that they will operate independently for the most part.
And then what will be the impact on the current flow, pedestrian and bicycle flow, during your building process? I know you have to tear down a few buildings, and so what plans do you have for altering the flow for pedestrians and bicyclists?
So you're talking about bicycles or pedestrians potentially coming off of San Mateo and heading towards downtown, or
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, during construction, we haven't put together a pedestrian plan, or bike and pedestrian plan for when these would be under construction yet. We're obviously working towards project approval here, but as part of construction, we would have to maintain access, some sort of access for bikers and pedestrians that are looking to get around the site and up to downtown, for example.
Yeah, I was just going to make a general comment. Typically, there's as part of our, and I'm not speaking specifically to South San Francisco, but I imagine it's the same. But in most every other city in the Bay Area we build in, as part of the construction plans, there is a traffic control plan that is basically shows how we are going to control the logistics of our own construction work, but also accommodate existing vehicular traffic as well as existing pedestrian and bicycle traffic as well. So we, as Zach was saying, we haven't put that plan together yet, but that would be part of the process as we go for building permit.
I would like to second that opinion. The pedestrian and cyclist traffic during construction is important to me. And the project just adjacent to yours, I think it's 150 Airport Boulevard, on the opposite side of the underpass. The sidewalk's been closed. Also, the underpass has been closed for like 2 years. And I don't think that's acceptable. I hate to see that. It's a major inconvenience, especially for us that live in that area. So I would like to see all of that, those facilities, sidewalks, etc., kept open during construction. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
And then finally, especially during rush hour, that particular part of South City can be very congested and very dangerous. And so from a bicycle and pedestrian flow into and out of your buildings, can you go through that? How you're going to address the safety for bicyclists in particular, but for pedestrians also?
You're referring to once the buildings are open, or?
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, so just to kind of walk you through the ground floor here. So this is both buildings are 2 levels of concrete podium with 5 levels of wood frame residential over them. The first 2 concrete levels are parking garage. So what you're looking at here is the ground floor of both of these buildings. And so most of this is parking garage, but as you can see here on building 1, we've got our lobby and leasing area on the corner of Airport and San Mateo. And then on building 2, lobby and like leasing mail room here on the corner of San Mateo and Produce. So the way that this is currently configured, our front door for building 1 is over here. You can see this spills out onto this walkway here, which leads directly to the sidewalk. All this would be redone as part of our project, which wraps around and then heads north on Airport Boulevard under the tracks towards downtown. The bike room for building 1 is here and opens directly out onto Airport Boulevard. And so one would get their bike from the bike room, pop out these doors here, and then just head north on the sidewalk here through the tunnel. For building 2, similar. One would come out of the lobby here if you're a pedestrian. We'd have our new intersection upgrades here. So you've got a safer crossing between the 2 buildings on San Mateo Avenue. You would come out, cross the street here, head north on the sidewalk. And then the bike room for building 2 is located here. And similar, you would come out through the lobby, down the ramp, up to the intersection and across, and you're on your way to downtown.
All right, other questions or comments?
No, I'm just glad you're cleaning the area up. That's cool. It's gonna be great.
We hope to have the opportunity.
Yeah, no, I've been loving the development. The stuff on the other side of the street, the sidewalk obstructions aside, like it's just great seeing like stuff being there instead of just a bunch of dilapidated, broken down things. So thanks.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to add, though, and I mentioned this last time, but I'm still not totally happy with that, bicycles through the underpass tunnel. I cycle that area myself, and I always use the roadway. Since I was 5 years old or something, I was always taught not to ride on sidewalks. I think that less than 8 feet, even if it was more than 8 feet, I still don't think I'd be happy, because you're mixing cyclists, two-way cyclists with two-way pedestrian traffic. And I don't think that's enough room. That's my thoughts on that.
I had an additional question. Are you going to add some bike lanes on San Mateo? Either San Mateo going towards San Bruno or San Mateo going back towards South Airport under the highway? Are there plans to add bike lanes there?
There are not currently. We don't currently have plans to add any bike lanes at this time.
So you envision all or most of the traffic from your building heading back towards downtown and not necessarily towards San Bruno and the San Mateo on San Mateo?
I'm only speculating. I'm not sure which direction traffic is going to head, but my thought is that most of the traffic, both bike and pedestrian, will be headed north towards downtown, and the Caltrain station, the new Caltrain station there. So I would imagine the predominance of that traffic would be headed north.
Oh, I don't know, Chris. I just would like to maybe have it considered in the plan to add bike lanes, because you could head south, like there's a Costco, there's a McDonald's, there's a lot of stuff actually south on Airport, and that area is really congested, and it would be a great opportunity to upgrade that intersection to allow for bicyclists to safely cross there. I've ridden over there, and I've sometimes ridden my bicycle over there, and just making that cross over from our side of Airport to the other side of Airport, it can be dangerous.
I think that's something we'll consider. I'll take a look at our bike and ped master plan update and see what we've looked at for this area. But I can't tell you off the top of my head right now. So, but no, like it's a good suggestion, because we do have like newer bike facilities constructed out over by the Costco and that side of South Airport. So it makes sense to look at connection. However, that again, like that's not something that is required of this project, and it's not proposed as part of that, but it's something to look at.
Natalie does bring up a good point about other directions. If there was someone was to continue down San Mateo Avenue to the BART station, it's not too far down into San Bruno, and it's probably more common actually than the Caltrain station.
No, that's a good point, and we'll look into it.
And then the master plan, I thought we were going to see that this week. Is
No, like let's talk about that at staff comments.
Okay.
But, so I want to focus on making sure if BPAC has any further comments for Zach and Scott on the project. No? Okay. Thanks, guys.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess we're on committee comments. Does anybody want to add anything to what we just heard? Well,
Is that budget? I'm just curious, is that budget to make that revamping, is that coming from the city budget, or is that coming from the development budget, their own private company?
All right, say that again, like the slip lane improvements and the
Yeah,
pedestrian-
that lighting underneath.
Yeah, that's all out of the developers.
Okay,
what they're
nice.
proposing, yeah. Mhm.
All right, well, my comment would just be that I'm still not very happy with using the pedestrian underpass as a bicycle lane, a two-way bicycle lane. It's less than 8 feet, and a bicycle lane minimum should be 5 feet, one direction. So that's my thoughts on that.
So are you suggesting that one side goes one way and the other side goes the other way? Or
No, I'm suggesting that the cyclists stay off the sidewalk. If I'm walking on the sidewalk with my children, I don't want a cyclist coming down that tunnel.
Oh,
That's
no,
what I'm
'cause
saying.
mine were a handful, so I can't imagine.
Yeah, so I don't know, but that's my personal opinion, but anyway.
And I'm concerned that in that area, I mean, it's great that they're building the bicycle facilities, and I hope to encourage bicycling.
Yeah.
But in that particular area, it's not safe for
No.
bicyclists unless we improve
Yeah.
the intersection.
Yeah, because the other converse, right? Like if you want the bicyclists off the tunnel, they have to go through the dark tunnel, which is also scary for bicyclists.
I really think we should be putting in a bicycle lane on Airport Boulevard, even if it means reducing it from 3 lanes to 2, so be it, but make it safe for cyclists
Yeah, I
I
would,
mean,
I would
if-
recommend that too.
and safe for pedestrians at the same time.
I guess if you guarded that lane enough, I feel like the issue there is people come peeling around that corner, leaving from, gosh, what is it? Like if you're coming from Costco and you hang a right around Denny's and you're heading down through that tunnel,
Yeah.
I feel it'd be really easy for someone to swerve into like any kind of bike lane and hit someone. I feel like I've seen this in Palo Alto too. They have that underpass that goes from the university to downtown. And I think in their case, they just say, I think they have signs that suggest dismounting your bike before going to the tunnel, but that's kind of been their solution, I think, is like, you just shouldn't be riding through that area. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
If
they
we had a
farm-
guarded bike lane, though, that would be cool. Something that just puts more of a barrier between the cars, because we don't need 3 tons of metal hurling at us.
Yeah, a protected bike lane. Well, if we give up a 10 or 12-foot traffic lane for it to be a bike lane, then there is room there to put a barrier, you know, a curb like they did on North Access Road recently, but put in a nice protected bike lane. Is it a class 3, I think? I forget. But
Fast forward.
check it out. It's really nice on North Access Road. Anyway, so that's my 2 cents.
Is that the kind of thing that the private developer even can get that involved in, or is that really more sort of like a bike and pedestrian sort of master plan sort of thing?
Well, their improvements are part of their mitigation to get approval for their development. That yeah, we could make that a requirement, as my understanding.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I feel like they probably end up pawning it off a little bit too, because the folks across the street evidently at what did he say, it was like 40, where that giant building is next to the La Quinta. I think they said that they were going to be doing something there too. So it's like, it would probably need to be a joint effort, because you need to kind of have the symmetry on the tunnel there, which actually sort of like raises the question of whether they need to be doing the same thing on the other side of the street. I forget, is there a tunnel over there, or is there just nothing over there? Tunnel over there too, isn't there?
There's a tunnel there, and that's
There's a
right now.
tunnel on both sides.
Yeah, there's a tunnel on both sides, and it's currently closed because of the construction on the other side, closer to downtown, right? So, but the idea is that like later on, when like that tunnel is supposed to resume operations and be open, and then this one will stay open as much as possible, or not as much as possible. We're going to require that they keep that pedestrian and bike access through that tunnel as they construct their project. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because I mean, it would just be a bummer to only clean up one tunnel. Yeah, like your ugly tunnel and your nice tunnel.
Right. All right.
All righty. Well, I have no other comments on that. Is there any other committee comments on anything else?
I think was it Chris? You sent out the master plan for comments.
Yeah, and thank you to everybody who's submitted comments back to me. Yes.
Oh, before we go on to staff comments, I did have one other committee comment to make. We've talked about a few of our meetings about not having a bicycle store in town. And what I would like to do is have our committee, or through the staff, send a letter to our Economic Community Development Department and ask if they could encourage or subsidize a store moving into town. We've got some empty storefronts, some of which the city owns. And I think this is a great opportunity to welcome a business into town and give them a discount or some sort of help. And at least, for the first year, to see if it takes off or not. And I think it'd be a mutual win. Hopefully it'll be a success. And as we add our different bicycle programs, for instance, giving away the bicycles, etc., we have a bicycle store in town. I think that would be a big benefit. So do I have what do the other committee members think of that, of us writing a letter to the Economic Community Development?
No, I'd love that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
There's definitely empty space on Grand Ave too, isn't there? I feel like I've seen a few storefronts that are for lease.
And we have the parking garage that's got empty storefronts, and we've got lots of other developments around.
Yeah.
There's the potential. Great. All righty. Chris, is that okay?
Yeah, no, just so again, let's jump back to the Bike and Ped Master Plan. Like, thanks to everybody who sent me comments.
Sorry, Chris, I don't think I've seen it. Can you send it to me again?
Sure. Okay, that's what I wanted to ask at this point. Can everybody send me an email address that works for you? Because I know I heard from Arian and Tommy on the Bike and Ped Plan. I hear regularly from Frank, so I know he has my email. But can all the BPAC members send me an email with your correct email address? Because I think that may be why you did not receive the Bike and Ped, the link to the Bike and Ped Plan. And let me actually stop sharing and throw my email into the chat. So the update on that is that we have sent it over to all of our interdepartmental staff to take a look and review, and actually the transportation consultant that's managing the general plan transportation element and mobility element, they've taken a deeper dive into our Bike Ped master plan update and have provided their comments. So we have all of these plus BPACs, the ones that were able to send me comments, like that's with our consultant now, and they're working on it. That's why it wasn't worth, bringing it back for this meeting. But we'll look into our next meeting to kind of present on that, assuming we get it then. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. And then the other thing that's not on our agenda is that we were workshopping the free bike program. But the update on that is that our city manager has given us some help. So I'd like to introduce Tamiko Huey, who's here on the call, and let her introduce herself.
Yeah, hi everyone. Good, I guess it's good night now. Nice to see you all. It's so cool to hear all the things that you guys have been giving input on. As Chris mentioned, the city manager has kind of tasked me with working on this program, which we've been calling loosely the Every Kid Deserves a Bike program. And it's developing into a three-prong approach right now. So the first one being the physical item is giving the bicycle to children. So we've established there would be a pilot program that we do for 1 year at a selected elementary Title I school, either Spruce or Martin Elementary. We'd select a grade level, and we would give every child a bike. So component 1 is having the physical item. Component 2 is also providing the safety items, the helmets, reflective gear, locks, etc. Then there's also the maintenance and safety aspect, where we would be able to talk about for children, like I was speaking to a fellow racial and social equity commissioner who told me that they saw a child was riding a bike without a helmet, and they got in trouble for some reason, and they didn't know about the helmet rule. And so this would be a great opportunity to give out some information on safety and just rules and regulations that the city has. And then we've also talked about having children being able to register their bikes in case it gets stolen or lost, they could be returned to them. Now, what's interesting with this timing of this project is that we've also are in the process of applying for a fellowship, and it's called the Safe Routes to School Fellowship. It's a travel fellowship specifically, and it's being offered by, I think it is both the San Mateo County Safe Routes to School Department and also the San Mateo County Office of Education. They'll be selecting 5 cities to receive this fellowship. The application is due on the 30th, and if we get the fellowship, we would get technical assistance throughout the school year from Alta Planning and Design. We would attend quarterly meetings with our group, and I'll elaborate on who that group includes. We would receive non-permanent quick build materials for pop-up demonstration that would, in lieu, open the gateways to making more permanent changes. And then also receive recommendations for a walk audit program. So I'm very excited about this. The turnaround time is not a lot of time, but it's a really great opportunity. And we attended a Q&A session today, and they wanted to really emphasize on who we have involved in the fellowship. So I can tell you we have someone from the city manager, we have an elected official, we have the department heads of the engineering and public works department. We have Liza Normandy, who's the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. We have a representative for the Racial Social Equity Committee. We have support from the superintendent. We have support from small businesses. We have a really comprehensive list, and everyone is willing to submit letters of support. So I'm hoping that BPAC will do the same to get this mission up and rolling. And I've spoke way too much, so I'm going to pause and see if anyone has any questions for me.
Sorry,
When
did you say
you get
you
the
guys
letter-
identified a school already? Oh, sorry.
Did we identify a school? So the city manager asked that we identify a Title I school, which essentially means it's a school in need. And this is mostly because we also wanted to be equitable, wanted to increase the access to bicycles just because we know the cost of bikes. And then secondly, it also lines up with the racial and social equity plan.
Great.
When do you need the letter from us?
So I am still in the process of drafting. I would say that I would send it out to Chris to send to all of you sometime in the next week or so. And it's a blanket letter, so it's already pre-written out. It has a nice template to it. I just ask that you guys sign and support. One last thing that I will mention as a good piece of news, and I think this goes to what Frank was talking about, not being able to have access to repair shop in the city. I mean, it's awful that, you know, if your bike breaks down, you would have to lug it to Redwood City or to San Francisco. The Boys and Girls Club is very enthusiastic about both the grant and the Every Kid Deserves a Bike program, and they have offered to leverage their resources and their contacts to help us do a bicycle repair clinic. Either at the Boys and Girls Club or at one of the elementary schools for the children. So I just wanted to share that really cool piece of information with you. And the Boys and Girls Club will be partnering and helping us with this project, whether or not we win the grant. Regardless of whether or not we get this money, they're going to help us with it. So just wanted to share a nice piece of news. Any other questions?
This is super exciting.
It's great
Thanks
news.
for the news on this. This is great.
Yeah, my pleasure. Okay, well, thank you all. Thanks, Chris.
Right.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Tamiko.
All right, so I think that was just about it. Next meeting, October 6th. Any other questions or comments?
Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Oh, we adjourned this meeting.
I second.
All those in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye.
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 Again, I heard a resounding majority, so the meeting is now adjourned at 6:54 p.m. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Frank, for filling in.
No problem.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.